Assalamu alaikum, shalom everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Islam to all the Moors. I am Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. This is the free astrotheology course, and right now we are going through Freemasonry in the Devil's Pulpit. So this is class number 3 of Freemasonry part 1. Okay. During the free astrotheology course. All right. Anyway, let's begin with the Devil's Pulpit. Y'all forgive my copy; it's beat up. But here you can see it: the Devil's Pulpit, astrotheological sermons. All right, it's actually lectures because it's not religion. The author is Robert Taylor, and this book was published in 1857. All right, so a sketch of his life, that's talking about a biography. The lecture on Freemasonry was given in 1831, April 10th, 1831, at the Rotunda on Blackfriar Road. All right, so let's pick it up, page 200. Did I say 200? Yeah. Page 240. Actually, it's page 242. Okay, so here we are. We're going to start at the third paragraph down. It is called, at any rate, the epistle, the letter to the Hebrews. The Hebrews. Then who are or were or what is or was meant by the Hebrews? It's an excellent critical thinking question. Let me repeat the question. The reason we're going to repeat it is because we're going to hold the author accountable. We're going to see if he answers these questions, if he gives us the answers. And if he does give the answers, are the answers are they intelligent, reasonable answers, or is it BS? Okay? So here again, who are the Hebrews? Where were the Hebrews? Okay, so then who are or were rather, or what is what? See, if it's what, that doesn't refer to a man or a woman. Or what is, or what was meant by the Hebrews. Okay? So is it a man, a woman? Is it men? Or is it something else? Let's continue. Now, sirs, do I put it to your own authority of judgment? In other words, what he's saying is that I'm leaving it to you to use your faculty of critical thinking to reach a conclusion. All right? To judge who is the scholar and worthy to be revered as a teacher. So either the author, the Reverend Robert Taylor, or the priestcraft. The priestcraft, the secret society members, all the denominations of Christianity, all of them together. The Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, the Lutheran, the Methodist, the Baptist, okay? Based on the facts and the evidence, not based upon a belief. He continues, having something that he can teach, something of value, right? and you can learn. So it's presented to you in such a way where it's intelligible. You can understand it. You can integrate it into knowledge that you already have, and you can use it. Okay, you can use it in your life. This is what he's talking about. I, says the author, who can teach and tell you who the Hebrews are. Now we're going to hold him to that, right? He's made a lot of big claims. But what we can say is that he's done right by us by telling us to use our own faculty of critical thinking to make our own decision based upon the facts and the evidence that he gives us. All right, he's not asking you to believe and have faith. Which is in contrast to what a religious person would do, right? You got to believe. He continues. I who can teach you who the Hebrews are. So he says who they are, so he's telling you it's the people. Well, let's not say people. Let's say living beings for right now. Let's say man or mankind. Simplify it. It's man, mankind, or both. All right? And what the meaning of this epistle to the Hebrews is. He's going to tell us what the letter to the Hebrew means. Okay? What it means and what it is. Hold on, y'all. They put sugar in my lemonade. I don't like to eat white sugar. I don't like to consume white sugar. Oh well. Let's let it, give it a minute, y'all. Okay. So it is I who can teach and tell you who the Hebrews are. I'm not coming here. I think this is my last time coming here. If I can help it. Sometimes I come here because I don't feel like taking a taxi to the other place. But the people in this coffee shop, the staff, are very rude. All of it. Okay, now let's continue. For the fourth time, I who can teach you and tell you who the Hebrews are, and what the meaning of this epistle, what the meaning of this letter to the Hebrews is, what the letter is, or your spiritual pastors and masters who cannot and who, as they are profoundly ignorant themselves, have no protection for their monopoly. Yeah, y'all, if I can avoid it, I'm not coming back here. I'll just, even if I'm not in the mood to get a taxi, I'll just go to the other place because this is so uncomfortable. Anyway, she's done. Let's continue. So he says he can teach them and show them what the letter means, or their pastors, their masters, cannot. And who, as they are profoundly ignorant themselves. Y'all heard that? He's saying that the majority of the church leaders are ignorant on this topic. They don't know anything about who the Hebrews are or what the letter to the Hebrews means. So you have to ask yourself, why are they ignorant, and are they intentionally kept ignorant? Right? Are they intentionally being kept ignorant by higher level Freemasons? In other words, don't talk about the Hebrews. At the lower levels of Freemasonry, don't talk about who the Hebrews are, and don't talk about what the letter to the Hebrews means, or give them BS. Okay? Give them nonsense and let them believe that. So let's continue. Let's continue. He continues. He says they have no protection for their monopoly. What's their monopoly? The religious game. Their monopoly is Christianity. But they have no way of protecting Christianity. Christianity is the rituals, rites, ceremonies, and the doctrine. Okay? They have no way of protecting that. But the trick of suppressing curiosity. In other words, the only way that they can protect Christianity is to keep you from using your critical thinking mind. He says here again, they have no protection for their monopoly, but the trick of suppressing curiosity. Don't ask no questions. Right? If you ask questions, you're going to get kicked out. And warning you not to go to the rotunda. Warning you not to talk to Dr. Yasapu. Warning you not to tune in to Zion Law School. Not to come to our classes. Not to subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath class, which is our streaming class. It's only $10. Warning you not to come to 506 The Curses course, which is where we go deep into the etymology, the grammar rules, the word morphology, everything. All of the Bible versions, all of them, and do comparative analysis. And examine the context of these doctrines. All of this to determine the best way to render a word, a verse, etc. All right? We examine the history. We examine all of the philology on that in that 506 The Curses course, okay? Whereas 101 Ancient Ibaryath, you get the basics. You get an introduction to the basics. He continues. So these pastors, the ecclesiastical class, warn you not to go to the rotunda. Why? Because that's where you're going to learn the truth. That Christianity, and all up and down the Old Testament, there's astrotheology, or worship of the stars, and that the book of the law has been turned into a book of religion, and they don't want you to know that. It blows their hustle. Well, he continues, for fear you should find out by your own improvement. Your own improvement is what? your own acquisition of real knowledge, useful knowledge. What a state of boobyism and ignorance they would have to keep you in. In other words, once you understand astrotheology, once you understand the natural law principles, natural phenomena, once you are exposed to the philology, word morphology, grammar rules, the tricks that they're using, once you see all of this stuff with your own eyes, then you say, wow, this New Testament is fraudulent. This is all a big game. This is all a mind F, as they say these days, a mind F. In other words, it's what, y'all? It's a military psychological operation against the Moors for the purposes of birthright theft. It's a psychops for the purpose of stealing your birthright.
Oh yeah.
He continues. The Hebrews, the Jewish nation. You have been taught to believe the descendants of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a national and political people, such as French, Dutch, Poles would be Polish, Russians, among ourselves, a people that had once a political constitution, kings, lords, commons, and borough-mongers of their own. What is he saying here, y'all? First of all, look at these people groups. Look at the people groups. French. Who are the French? Are the French really a bloodline, y'all? No. Dutch. Are the Dutch really a bloodline? No. What about the Poles? No, they're not. When you talk about the hybrids, their father is the chimpanzee. This is the Yaku experiments. The modern day French. Remember, this is coming from a lecture that was given in 1831. He's talking about hybrids. They're not a nation. They're not a nation, period. They have no birthright. Their father's a chimpanzee. They're not sprung from the soil, that's my point. They're the product of a genetic engineering experiment, or what's called, what does he call it? In the Clock of Destiny, C.M. Bay calls it animalistic experimentation. That's what they're the product of. So they have no birthright. They're not sprung from the soil. They're not Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. So they have no birthright. They are not heirs. Everyone see that? Does everyone see it? These are hybrids. The modern day French, the modern day Dutch, Polish, and Russians, they are not autochthonous men and women, period. So let's clarify that. Secondly, there does not have to be a king for a nation to exist. A nation is a bloodline, a family. Right? Your near kinfolk and your extended kinfolk. Attached to a specific landmass, sharing a common heritage, a common culture. All right, so common language, traditions, foods, right, things of that sort. That's what makes a nation. And of course, the instructions or the laws that are passed from generation to generation. This is what makes a nation. You don't have, there doesn't need to be a king. There doesn't need to be lords, okay? In fact, kings and lords exist when the common people, when their status is taken away from them as the sovereigns. Y'all see it? Everyone see that? But anyway, let's let the author keep talking. So, I disagree with his analysis here. Let me read this one more time. The Hebrews, the Hebrew nation, you have been taught to believe the descendants of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a national and political people. Y'all see that? A national, nation, family, and political people. And then he compares such as, or like, or the same as, the French, Dutch, Poles, Russians, and among ourselves. That would be the British. Because he's British because he gave these lectures in London. So if you look in a old dictionary, like from I think it's from the 1800s, maybe not even that old. I think it's from 1960s. I don't remember which one it is. But there's a dictionary. I'll try to find it and post it. I know I have it. Maybe it's on my laptop. But it says that the British are heterogeneous hybrids. So it's an acknowledgement of the Yaqub story. It's an acknowledgement that they are Neanderthal or the Paleolithic caveman. Y'all see it? Half man, half monkey. They acknowledge it in their own dictionary. I wish I could remember the name of that dictionary right now. Okay, so I don't agree with his analysis here, with his comparison rather. But let's continue. The immediate ancestors, here we go. Wait a minute. The very next sentence. The immediate ancestors of the long-armed and blue-faced gentlemen of the menagerie, whose existence to this day is standing proof of the truth of divine revelation, suppose ye. Hold on. Long-armed and blue-faced gentlemen. Hold on, y'all. I know at some point, I don't remember what page it is, but he talks about the European as being orangutans. I don't remember what page it's on, but he does acknowledge that ancestry in here. He calls them orangutans. Not derogatorily, but he just, hold on. I'm distracted, y'all. Okay, so my thought was right. So, listen.
Menagerie. Menagerie. Menagerie.
Okay, menagerie. Noun, a collection of live, wild animals on exhibition. The place where such animals are kept. All right, a diverse or miscellaneous group. Now let's look in the Cambridge dictionary. Menagerie.
Menagerie.
Menagerie. That's the U.S. pronunciation. A collection of wild animals that are kept privately or to show the public. Then it has here, I'll skip that. A collection of different animals that are kept usually for people to see. Okay, so now let's do that again. Listen, y'all, the intimate ancestors. The close ancestors of the long-armed and blue-faced gentlemen of the menagerie. Long arms, you'd think primates, right? Blue-faced, maybe blue-black. Like a primate whose existence to this day is standing proof of the truth of divine revelation. Suppose ye, he says, or yes, yes, it will do, you see, for a lecture on the evidences of the Christian religion, where the lecturer dare not suffer himself to be questioned, even in the most respectful and courteous manner in which an inquiry after truth could question the professed teacher on it. So he's saying these Christian pastors, you can't ask them any questions. They'll get upset with you. Or they'll pretend like they're upset and throw you out. Right? I remember back in the day, they used to say, oh, you don't have the Holy Spirit. You don't understand because you don't have the Holy Spirit. You're not there yet. You're not ready. And if you keep talking, they throw you out. I remember when I used to be involved in religion, and we would go to certain doors and talk to people, and then the elder, I was young, the elder would say, oh, he's a dangerous person, right? Certain people who had some knowledge that I didn't know anything about. And they would spend some time trying to show me why this person was dangerous. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. That happened quite a bit. But anyway, let's let the author keep going. Page 243. But it would not do to abide the questions where, in what monument of past existence, in what document, line, word, or vestige of history. In other words, where's your reference? Where's the citation? What book, what documents are you getting this from? All right? By which alone can we know anything of what has been going on in the world before we came into it? That's a very good point, right? A lot of people will say, well, the Akashic records, right? But you'll never hear a preacher say that. That question can be answered only in the most decisive, the most unequivocal negation that ever truth threw up in solution of any inquiry whatever. Nowhere in all the world, nowhere, in no era of time, in no slate or stone or skin or papyrus or paper, and nothing that ever was plastered by the true, sketched by the style, like you're engraving something, graven by chisel, or written by the pen of a human hand. Han Uman, or the human Han Uman, okay, or written by the hand of mankind, but also man, right? Hath the world ever possessed a scratch or a scramblement that recognized the existence of a Hebrew nation? So in other words, the author is saying in 1831 that there is no recorded evidence of a Hebrew nation ever existing. Quote unquote, a holy nation, a peculiar people, a royal priesthood. A holy nation, a sunny nation, right? A sunny, a highly intelligent nation, a holy nation, a brilliant nation. Now let's deal with peculiar. Wow, I've never seen a fire truck go by. This is my first time in all the years I've been here. Okay, peculiar, unusual, and strange. Sometimes in an unpleasant way. Synonyms: bizarre, curious, eccentric, eerie, flaky, as in a flaky person, right? You don't know what their mood is going to be. Freakish, odd, funny, as in strange, spooky, strange, weird. So these are synonyms for peculiar. Hold on, y'all. So peculiar, can y'all see it? So I just went over those meanings. So in other words, this is a highly intelligent, a highly enlightened, strange group of people, bizarre group of people, okay? Let's go over the synonyms. A curious group of people, an eerie group of people, a flaky group of people. Y'all see it? Man, the glare is so strong here. I can't see the screen really because of the light reflecting off of it. So I hope y'all were able to see it. Okay? So it says a royal priesthood. So wait a minute. This royal priesthood is made up of strange people, eerie people, flaky people, right? You don't know what kind of bag they're going to come out of. You don't know what mood they're going to be in. Okay? I'm speaking from the synonyms. Okay? This royal priesthood is made up of weird people, weirdos, spooky people, odd people. This royal priesthood is made of odd people, flaky people, eccentric people, curious people, bizarre people. This royal priesthood is made up of bizarre, airy, freakish, flaky, odd, curious people. Do y'all see that? It's page 243. See, a holy nation, a peculiar people, a royal priesthood. Bye-bye. Nice to see you again. So do y'all see it? Everybody see it? Their only scriptural definition is a definition that expressly bars off and excludes any sense or understanding of their having existed as a political body or ordinary people in a national sense. Did y'all understand what he just said? They describe themselves, or let me repeat that. Well, let me just read it again. Their only scriptural definition is a definition that expressly bars off. Bars off excludes. Okay, so the definition of a Hebrew excludes their having been existing as a political body. Why? Because it says they were a royal priesthood. A royal priesthood is not a political body. That's a religion. This is the author's point. In other words, he's saying out of their own mouth, they're telling you that the Hebrews are a priesthood. It's not a political body. See, anybody can join a priesthood. It has nothing to do with nationhood. So their own scriptural definition expressly bars off and excludes any sense or understanding of their ever having existed as a political body, because they are a royal priesthood or even ordinary people. See, a royal priesthood are not ordinary people. This is the author's point. So the Hebrews are not ordinary people. There is no common person who's a Hebrew. This is the author's point. But I think some Hebrew Israelites might say, well, every Hebrew Israelite is a priest. I can hear some Hebrew Israelites saying that. I'm assuming or presuming. But when you look around, are they priests? Is every Hebrew Israelite a priest, y'all? Is every Hebrew Israelite involved in or a member of a priesthood? Is every Christian a member of a priesthood? The answer is no. Right? Some camps, they have positions, from my understanding, is like officers, captains, like that, generals. But the Hebrews, by their own definition, are a royal priesthood. This is the author's point. Whether you agree or disagree, I'm just sharing with you what the author is saying here. Okay? So they were not a political body. There were no ordinary people in a national sense. Again, nationality, bloodline, attached to a specific landmass, sharing a common heritage. Okay, a common heritage. Common heritage, economy, language, culture, all of that. But this epistle to the Hebrews, anonymous. It's an unsigned letter. It's an unsigned letter. As it is, yet of high antiquity. Okay, it's supposed to be old, right? Ancient. As in all soberness and truth, it must be admitted to be, is proof that there were persons or a community of persons called Hebrews. Okay, now, that's reasonable, right? There were a group who called themselves Hebrews, but they were not a nationality, not in the national sense of the word nationality, right? Not in the denotative meaning of nationality. So yeah, the author is saying, yeah, there was a group of people who called themselves Hebrews. Yes. And so are there, and so has there been since the building of Solomon's temple. Persons and communities of persons called Freemasons. persons and communities of persons called Freemasons, persons corresponding with each other by means of secret symbols. So wait a minute. The author is saying that a Hebrew is a Freemason. Or wait, let me rephrase that. Hebrews are Freemasons, but not all Freemasons are Hebrews. Because remember, he said the lower people, well, let me rephrase that. He said the masses of the clergy, they don't know who Hebrews are. They don't know what the letters mean. So that information is kept from the lower levels of Freemasons. All right, y'all? But the higher level, I'll go ahead and say it, the higher level, the higher degrees of Freemasons are Hebrews. Okay? These are selected men who say that they are perfect men and that they are eyewitnesses. All of that stuff we get into later. All right? So yes, the Hebrews are the upper degrees, the upper echelon of Freemasons who have been told about astrotheology, that the New Testament is astrotheology, and that astrotheology is all throughout the Old Testament. That's who the Freemasons are. I'm sorry, that's who the Hebrews are. Let's continue. Persons corresponding, persons writing to each other, communicating to each other by means of secret symbols. And these are the symbols in nature, y'all. They use the symbols in nature. They pervert ancient symbols. And they pervert them and use them for their own usage, okay? And held together in a mystical corporation. A mystical corporation. Governed by law and officers of their own, recognizing each other by certain winks of the eye, positions of the foot, lollings of the tongue within the cheeks, grips of the hand, and indentations of the thumb upon the wrist. Well, he's telling it all, ain't he? Which, escaping the notice of persons not informed in the craft, easily discover those who are initiated to each other. So in other words, y'all, they all know what these winks of the eye mean, grips of the hand, indentations of the thumb on the wrist. Okay, these are all subtle means of communication to do what? To identify who they are, who the Freemasons are, and who are not Freemasons, so that they can do what? Help each other and take advantage of those who are not Freemasons. That's what it's about. And to do it without anybody knowing, because people were not up on the game. Doesn't that suit meet the definition of peculiar? These people are sneaky. Sneaky people, spooky people, strange, weird, winking, doing these eye winks. And what do you say about the where does it say it? Oh, doing things with their tongue in their cheek, making that's a weirdo. We look at somebody and we might think this dude is weird if we catch him, but we would never suspect that they're communicating, right? It's not as obvious like somebody doing sign language. Very subtle communication, okay? So peculiar, bizarre, eccentric. We might get a glimpse of them and think that they're bizarre or eccentric people, right? Freakish, Why is he standing with his feet like that? Y'all see what I mean? So a peculiar people. Let's continue. And thus many a man is asked whether he is a Mason, and what degree he has attained in the Masonic mysteries. By these dumb signs, we just went over those signs, and pantomatic actions, we just went over them, which no eye nor ear of any third person can possibly perceive. See, it's deceitful, y'all. The first or the second summons being misunderstood or unheeded, a third and a fourth of higher authority and of more imperative mystery communicated only to the higher graduates of the craft, enables them to boast with truth that whatever mistakes may occur in this way among their inferior orders, the lower degrees, the higher dignities, and then he gives some sentence in Greek. So these higher dignities, these higher degree Freemasons or holy brethren, so the higher degree Freemasons are the holy brethren, can recognize each other with infallible accuracy, whatever countries they may be born in. Now y'all see why Africa can't stand on its own 2 feet. Because its leaders are high level or higher degree Freemasons. And their loyalty is with their Freemason or Masonic brothers, and not with the African people, as it were. And the same thing in North America. Maghrib al-Aqsa. Your so-called black leaders, they're Freemasons. Their loyalty is not to the common people. Their loyalty is to the Freemasons. And they give you the finger. All right, so he says, he continues, whatever language they may speak all over the world and through all eras of time. This is a global organization. And they communicate by subtle signs. Now y'all see why the leaders in almost every country betray their people. By these symbols of higher authority than the common claims of humanity, y'all hear that? And the ordinary obligations of charity and man to man, they, that is the Freemasons, the Hebrews, can demand and receive assistance from each other. Can demand and receive assistance from each other. So in other words, they commit a crime. Let's say you don't know any better. You go into the de facto venue. And the person who committed a crime against you gets off. The de facto magistrate, everybody in the room is against you. Okay? And then they get off. And you gotta pay. Right? Or someone commits a crime, you're innocent, but it's a Freemason who's guilty. And let's say the policy enforcers, they know that that's a Freemason. Are they gonna let him walk? And they're gonna give you a free case. They're gonna pin that case on you. Okay, y'all? They're gonna pin the case on you. And the Masonic brother gets off, walks away scot-free. That's how this plays out. Or Let's say it's about a job. This guy's a Freemason and you're not. The Freemason's going to get the position. The son or daughter of the Freemason or the Freemason himself will get into the university or into the graduate program. And you won't, even though you're much more qualified. Period. Okay? They can demand and receive assistance from each other in all their distresses and inconveniences. And each good Mason will fly to the relief of his brother Mason as an obedient SON son to the command of an affectionate father. As the right hand of one's own body will come up to the assistant to the left. Right? So 1, 2. And that without body will come up to the, and that without any regard of country, age, condition, character. They don't care if you're a murderer. They don't care if you're a thief. Or religion. They don't care if you're a Hebrew Israelite, if you're Jewish, Christian, Islamic. They don't care. Nothing. It has nothing to do with anything. Okay? So, without regard to country, age, condition, character, or religion of the Mason, who has thus need to be assisted, but solely and exclusively in virtue of the consideration that he is a Mason. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter how criminal-minded you are. Doesn't matter how diabolical you are. Doesn't matter how many people you've killed. Doesn't matter how many people you gave free cases to. What I mean by that is you set people up, right? Set them up, had them locked up. Doesn't matter how many people you injured, doesn't matter what terrible things in life you've done. Just because you are a Mason, they will come to your aid, like a son coming to his father's aid, like your right hand responding to some event where you need to defend yourself. Right? Right, y'all? Doesn't this explain why, when you look at the condition, when you look at what happens in the world weather? I like to use Africa for an example because Africa has all the mineral resources. They have everything you need. They're extremely wealthy, but yet what? Yet they're at the bottom, being ruled by France. Nobody stands up to defend themselves. I remember, I have some friends in different African countries, and I used to tell them that Africa is in the condition that they're in, and that some of them would get mad at me about this because they just can't see it or accept it. Africa's in the condition that it's in because the leaders are secretly working with the Europeans or with the Freemasons, right? They're high-level Freemasons and they're all on the same team. And the game is live rich by exploiting Africans. A couple people got mad when I used to talk like that. But it's so obvious, right? You look down in South America, especially, when COVID happened. When COVID happened, that was all the evidence that you needed to see that these countries who even call themselves enemies, they're all working together at the top. Everything was coordinated like a professional orchestra. If y'all ever been to the orchestra. Okay, y'all? So anyway, let's keep it going. The moral uses and the moral fitness and propriety of such an institution, such as Masonry, right? The moral fitness and the moral use of the institution called Freemasonry. If ever there was a fitness and propriety in it, must necessarily be diminished. In other words, he's saying you got to get rid of it. And the institution itself grew into destitute and neglect, as every good Mason is bound to wish and desire that it should do so in proportion as its end is achieved and its principles diffuse by diffusion of civilization and consequently of universal benevolence among men, when the whole world shall become one great lodge of Freemasons. When the secret of the Lord shall be discovered to every individual on whom the S-U-N sun doeth shine. As it exists at present day, that's in 1831, it is a slander upon reason and a disgrace to humanity. So their whole morality, the whole institution is a disgrace. Okay? It's an insult to your reason and a disgrace. Anyway, let's continue. Boys and lubberly garsons in a drunken frolic. So this is their morality. Men who behave like boys, secretly, behind closed doors. Y'all know who these men are? These would be the physicians, the lawyers, the leaders of universities, the dentists, the bankers, the magistrates, the clerk of the courts, the governors, the mayors, all doing what? He calls them boys. And y'all know how little boys behave. And lubberly garsons in a drunken frolic. All right? So they're living a double life. They present to you as these outstanding citizens interested in fairness, equality, justice, professional ethics and all of that BS. But behind closed doors, in their Freemason meetings, during their rituals and all of that, they act like little boys. And y'all know how little boys act. And for mere joke of the thing, may have been betrayed into the first ceremonies. In other words, they got tricked into the first ceremonies. Okay? They thought it was they thought Freemasonry was something that it was not. Okay? In other words, they were deceived. That's how a lot of them may have gotten into it. They thought it was something good. And for a mere joke of the thing may have been betrayed into the first ceremonies of idolish mummery. But sure I am that there is not a sensible and honest man on earth who, when reminded of such a proof of his boyish folly, in other words, you put his actions, you call him out on his actions. You call him out on his immature actions or his destructive actions as having become a Freemason. So the author is saying that it's destructive, self-destructive to become a Freemason. Will not hang his head, if you call him out on it, will hang his head. Hold your head down out of shame, right? Who will not hang his head and own himself ashamed of it. So wait a minute. So maybe they're doing what? Homosexual acts. Sacrificing maybe babies, sacrificing animals, drinking blood. See, when you confront it, call him out on it, now he's going to feel shame. And that was the state of Freemasonry in 1831. Imagine what the state of Freemasonry is right now, y'all. The strength that you think they have, they do not have. The strength and unity that they project, they don't have it. They don't have it. Just like, just like a prize fighter. A prize fighter, you don't know he's washed up until he meets somebody who's not afraid of him. Right? But his managers made for 5-10 years. Only let him fight tomato cans, bums. All right, fighters they're sure he can beat. Okay, but the fighter is washed up. He's no good. Y'all see what I'm saying? So in this case, yeah, you think in your mind, you think that the Freemasons are strong. Or let's say Illuminati is strong. But when people have no discipline, when they're given to vice, they're weak. And all it takes is that one fighter to get in that ring who the managers judge wrong, or even if they judge correctly, something inspired that fighter who's a bum. Maybe maybe he made a promise to his mom on her deathbed that he would win that fight and become champion. Nobody expected his mother to die a day before the fight or 3 days before the fight, and he goes in there and wipes out the champion. All of a sudden you see the champion is himself a tomato can, just propped up by the media and by his managers. Y'all see what I'm saying? So imagine what the state of Freemasonry is today. They're propped up by what? Innuendo, connections, what you see on the internet. When the fact of the matter is, if what this author is saying is correct, what was the name of that movie, y'all? There was a movie about, what was the name of that movie? They're just a bum. They're just a bum. They just look strong. They just look strong because of media. Okay? Now let's continue. Next paragraph, page 244. But in earlier days, through the days of an infinite remote antiquity, such an institution as that of Masonry, as it had its necessity, had its sanctity, its right, its justice, its utility, in that need. So y'all know my personal opinion, what he's talking about? I think he's talking about before the Jacobian experiments, when it's just masonry, right? Civics, the science of mother and son, the astrology of it, right? The natural phenomena involved in that. If y'all been watching my work, you have an idea of what I'm talking about, okay? This is the time he's talking about. The time when when we lived our lives according to the circumpolar zodiacal projection, the North Star and its 7 stations. That's my opinion. When Adam Kadmon, who is the perfect man, who is Hiram Abeth, who is the higher self more, standing erect, okay, with his arms outstretched and his legs outstretched, which is the five-pointed star, which represent living according to the highest principles of the universe: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Right? Okay, y'all? It's during this time that Masonry was pure, clean. But when Yaqub came along and produced the hybrid, and then as the story goes, the Egyptian dynastic period began. The zodiacal projection was changed. It was changed. Now the focus became the solar zodiacal projection, which is the ecliptical zodiacal projection, in which the sun is worshipped. The Escheat sun is worshipped as the Father and the Son. And Virgo is worshipped as the Mother of God. So mother and son, y'all see how they took that natural phenomena and then religified it? Y'all see that? And all 16 of the solar deity religions are made off of that one template, which is the sun plus the 12 zodiac signs. Okay? And when the sun goes into each zodiac sign, that represents Jesus doing his Father's work with the apostles, with the 12 apostles. Okay, y'all? So, when the Yaqubian experimentations happened, the hybrid was developed, and the Moors began to fall, and Yaqub and his set began to rise. And you know, I'm only speculating. And y'all know the story about the Egyptian pharaohs. Something was off with them, right? Something was off with them. And then you had all of the hybridization, all those hybrid creatures, right? All of those hybridized creatures that were being worshipped at that time, or at least presented as being worshipped. Okay? And so that's when Masonry, according to this author, began to go bad. Let's continue. So it's the hybrids. Well, not only the hybrids, of course, right? Because Yaqub, well, maybe he was a hybrid, but definitely the 12 co-scientists were Moabite women. They were not hybrids. So let's continue. So he continues. Well, let me start back from the top. But in earlier days, through the days of an indefinitely remote antiquity. So that's the circumpolar zodiacal period, y'all. Because that's going way, way back. The solar zodiac projection is young. It's like a fetus compared to the circumpolar zodiacal projection. Through the days of an infinitely remote antiquity, such an institution as Freemasonry, as it had its necessity, had its sanctity, its right, its justice, its utility in that need. Okay, it was honorable. It was needed and it was honorable. Which those of the, he says here, human race, who first emerged from the state of barbarous ignorance into reason. Now, He said human race, that's Han Human. See, there never was a time when mankind was ignorant. Hold on. Adrana writes, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yasapa, Shalawama, good seeing you again and delighted to tune in tonight. Assalamu alaikum. And then she writes, absolutely. Okay, hold on, y'all. How do I do this? Hold on. I still don't know how to work the chat. Okay, good to see you. Good to see you back again. So do y'all hear what he just said? See, man, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, was never in a state of ignorance. Never in a state of ignorance. But who was in a state of ignorance? Who had to evolve? It was the Han Uman, the product of the Jacobian experiment, the animalistic experiments. That's who had to evolve. But there's no evidence that man, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, that man evolved. None. None. Look at the megalithic buildings. Okay? And the mathematics behind that, so on and so forth. There's no evidence of that. Okay, this whole evolution thing, that applies to the hybrid troglodyte niggers, the Neanderthal. So he says, those of the human race, that's Han Uman, Neanderthal, Paleolithic caveman, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 27, the Jacobian experiments, who first emerged from the state of barbarous ignorance into reason, intelligence, and science, had to protect themselves from the incursions of the monkeys, baboons, the wild men of the woods. Now, who would be the wild men of the woods, y'all? With whom the conflict was continually the struggle of wit against brute force, and who were only to be kept aloof by stratagem, by intelligence, overawed by mystery. Yeah, overall, when they look at the Moors and saw our technology and how we live, and we had them out in the field, okay, or in a ship, rowing. And ruled by terror, and that's what we did. In fact, C.M. Bay talks about it. Hold on, y'all. Let's go into this a little bit, not much, because C.M. Bay writes quite a bit on this topic. I just introduced you to it. So let's go into the clock of destiny. One second, y'all. One second. Yeah, all right. So, okay. Clock of destiny. Volume 1. Okay, volume 1, page 7. Volume 1, page 7. The Code of the Roman Cross Order. The Code of the Roman Cross Order. Okay, so 1, 2, he gives Roman numerals up to 10. And the Latin or Spanish language comprise the Christian code, of which was born out of our Moorish forefathers' code in South America, Patagonia, known today as Argentina. The original region of the new masses of humanity, the new Han Uman. Y'all can Google search Han Uman, South America. You'll see evidence. You'll see evidence of these camps. Just Google search it. The original region of the new masses of humanity, Han Uman, Genesis chapter 1, the created creature, who possesses ruddy or red, pale skin with greenish blue eyes and long blonde hair. Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela, all of which comprise the springboard of the Roman nation. Now y'all know Roman spelled backwards is more, right? I mean, Rome is more, antigram of more. Okay? So Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela are the springboard of the Roman nation. In other words, the Han Uman. Of many different races, castes, and color, guided by dogma. Dogma is a Latin phrase which defines false doctrine. All right? Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, Roman con. The term Rome, R-O-M-E, delete the E, you get M-O-R as an antigram, which is more. Okay, antigram, more. So these are what? Lower self mores. These are what? These are the hybrids. Okay, so the term Rome implies the people who conquer by intrigue. See, a peculiar people. That was the definition given of the Hebrews, right? A peculiar people, and we went through the synonyms. A people who conquer by intrigue, force, and violence, and enslave the human mind. So we would have to say the mind of man, not human, because human is a contracted form of Han Uman. Through false doctrine of religious mystery and image or idol worship of various mystical God phrases. These are the God spells. And symbols, y'all. Okay? By religious mystery and image or idol worship of various mystical God phrases, the God spells, the Gospels, most common of which are quote-unquote Jehovah God, Christ, or Buddha. Let us remember that these United States of North America comprise every so-called race of the quote-unquote lily white family. Okay, let's skip down in that paragraph. Having been defeated by the Roman tribes of South America, they submitted, that means the Moors submitted themselves to Roman slavery, Roman bondage. They gave up the birthright under such names as Negro and Indian, which resulted in the loss of their birthright in 1774 of the Christian calendar, which is equivalent to 1194 of the Moorish calendar year. So 1453 to 1492 Christian calendar year is equivalent to 873 to 912 Moorish calendar year. One day I'm going to work those numbers out, see if they have a numerological meaning. The Roman conquerors added 580 years to the Moorish calendar. So do y'all see the sneaky stuff that they do? Okay? They added 580 years to the calendar. Wait a minute. What's 5 plus 8, y'all? Isn't that 13? Isn't that Jesus Christ, who is the Eschuan son, and his 12 apostles, 13, perfect rulership? Okay, not to benefit you, but to benefit the Hebrews, the upper level secret society members, the higher degree secret society members, right? So that they would have perfect control over you, over your mind, and over your physical body. How would they do it? Fascism. Just like they're doing right now. See, in other words, corporations and government working together to oppress the people, or to what? Consolidate wealth, the wealth at the expense of the people. So let's take a look at Genesis chapter 1. Let's look at the commission that the Elohim, who would have been Yaqub, and his 12 feminine or staff scientists, okay? Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Then God said, then Elohim said, let us make mankind. See, that's a kind of man, that's Han Uman, different from man from Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Let us make mankind in our image. Well, Yaqub was supposed to be a man, right? He's a man. So he had a penis, and then the 12 staff scientists who were on his team, they were women. They had a womb. And when you study these verses, what you're going to find out is that this kind of a man, in its initial iteration, I'm speaking like a product, right, had both sex organs present. I don't know what level, what degree of development they were, but both were present. Okay? Both were present. This is a morphodite, is what I'm saying. You know that through the grammar. Okay? You know it through the grammar. So let us make mankind in our image. So it came out male and female. And a morphodite. So that they may rule over, this is the point, so that they may rule over. Rule means to have in subjection, to dominate, to have supremacy over, white supremacy. You always hear that phrase, right? I'm not saying that that's real, but I'm saying you know that phrase. To have supremacy over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock, that's the cattle, right? And all the wild animals, the lions, the tigers, the bears, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. That would include the Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, man and man with a womb. So Yaqub and his 12 staff scientists who were women, created Han Uman, this kind of man, to rule over, dominate, have supremacy over the autochthonous Moors and everything else on the planet. Hence, when you read the doctrine of discovery, unum sanctum, there's no surprise. The Pope claims that he owns everything. And he has executive management over all wombs. Man and woman, mankind, animal, fish, bird, over all lands. And that authority comes from J.C. the Christ figure. So therefore the Pope is the vicar of Christ. He's the CEO until Jesus come back. Do y'all see, understand unum sanctum now? Verse 27. So in other words, y'all, this is where he's getting the authority for unum sanctum. Okay? The church has the ultimate power. And it comes from J.C. the Christ figure. And then the political nations are next in line, but subservient to the Catholic Church. Y'all see it? But the Catholic Church can use the nation's armies as though it's his own, as though it's the Pope's sword. Y'all got it? And in turn, the Pope would submit the people to the governments. But these are fake governments, right? Because these are Han Uman. These are created creatures. They're really not nations. They're hybrids. They're non-descendable. They have no birthright. Hence they went and did what? They went forth and they started robbing and stealing, conquering, and taking everybody's stuff. Okay? And setting up these feudalistic political systems. The Sessacute Trust, that all of this stuff springs from, okay, or has its authority from. And all of that's coming from the notion that Jesus Christ gave the Pope the status of the vicar of Christ to manage all wombs, all resources, all land. In other words, your birthright until Christ come back. And he ain't never coming back. This is why you see Jesus. I showed this so many times. I think I'm playing it out. But I'm gonna show it one more again because I think it's appropriate. It's appropriate. This is why you see Jesus given the Apostle John, who is the revelator, who's revealing, right? Given the more to the Apostle John. It's a transaction. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Y'all remember I showed this? Look in JC's hand. Y'all see the more in his hand? Okay. Y'all see that sleeping more in his hand? Hiram Abiff? Okay, lying down, dead in a shallow grave. He was killed by 3 ruffians, one of which is the Catholic Church. Y'all see John the Revelator? Is that a bill of exchange? What is that bill? A purchase slip? Okay, y'all see the point? But anyway, let's continue. Kind of forgot what I was doing. Oh, dealing with the hybrid. Let me go back. This is page 10. 10 is 9. During the Moorish world domination, there was no Europe. There was no Europe, no England, no France, no Greece, no Rome, no Egypt, no Africa, no China, no Japan, or Russia across the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. This is why I told you I disagree with the author when he, on page 244, where he likened the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to a real nation, to a real political and national people, such as the French, Dutch, Poles, Polish, Russians, and the British. See, those are not nations. Now you got that straight from CM Bay. All right, y'all? So they did not exist. That's on page 10, Clock of Destiny, Volume 1. There was no Europe during the Moorish domination. No England, no France, no Greece, no Rome, no Egypt, no Africa, no China, no Japan, no Russia across the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Okay, y'all? Oh, here we are. Page 12. Interesting, right? Page 12. The blonde women of Patagonia, South America, had manifested their cultured height in the Society of Islam. In other words, they existed. We allowed them to be next to us, and they reached the height of their culture at that time in Patagonia, modern-day Argentina, which qualified them to establish the Society of the Cross laden with mystery, the Society of the Cross laden with mystery and emotional false doctrines. Y'all see that? Now, our ancestors did that to them. Our ancestors gave them religious doctrine. We did not give them the science of astrology, astronomy, and natural phenomena. We gave them what? We gave them the Society of the Cross, religious doctrine. We gave them a remix, okay? A remix of astrology and astronomy, remixed into religious doctrine, Christian doctrine, okay? He continues. All right? So he says, the Society of the Cross, laden with mystery and emotional false doctrines, as a positive weapon of liberating themselves from the amalgamated iron-handed rulers or dictators. Now these were amalgamated rulers, dictators, okay? Who had, listen y'all, who had shielded secrets of nature. In other words, they withheld the secrets of nature. In other words, they made them ignorant in the same way that you and the rest of our people have been shielded or made ignorant of the secrets of nature, as shown in the signs of the Zodiac, and established a doctrine of mystery and religious superstition by force. As a result, the following amalgamated generation of Moorish fathers and blonde mothers, so these were hybrids, right? Amalgamated hybrids and blonde mothers, grew up in ignorance of the science of the 12 signs of the Zodiac and the applied principles of Islam, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They didn't know nothing about that. They were intentionally kept away from that, the same way you are. And look at the condition of our people now as a result. So what they do, they flip the script, right? They flip the script on you, which in turn resulted in the corruption of society of Islam. Okay? Cause and effect relationship, Hermetic law of cause and effect. Under the influence of Islamism, religion, of variable, unreasonable procedures of religious worship. See, that remixing came back on them. And all of a sudden, Islam is being remixed into a religious doctrine, into what you see today. All right, strenuous, mysterious prayers and the restriction of literary education. In other words, they didn't teach them how to read, poor reading comprehension skills, poor grammar skills. Y'all see it? Connotative linguistics. And the restriction of literary education to the common masses. That's exactly what they're doing to our people now. Keeping you dumb in a system of belief. In other words, they got you dead, laying in a shallow grave with your head in Aries and your feet in the scales of Libra. Okay? In other words, you are being hit with the curses. You're under the curses. The corrupt process of the selfish, jealous, amalgamated rulers of the Muslim world converted the society of Islam into regimented human castes. Slavery, economic and social degradation, crime, bloodshed, and human destruction, from which was born the army of the mystic banner of the cross, led by militant, quote-unquote, white women or Patagonian blondes, supported by their many wise, listen y'all, supported by their many wise Muslim women and sons. Y'all see that? So now the Moors are turning against themselves. Y'all see that? Committing treason. So you have to ask, what was their motivation, right? Why would they do that? Struggling for freedom, which resulted in some 364 years of intermittent conflict from Peru to Alaska and across the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean in the Northern Hemisphere. A great battle between two different types of religious superstitions, namely Islamism and Crossism, that's Christianity, referred to as the great battle between the crescent and the cross, or Muhammad and the Christ. The period of crucifixion, lynching, burning, and murdering one another over ideas of impractical isms and mystery of variety, which has dominated the world for some 400 years and has manifested with racial and color scheme corruption. Now, I think I'm about finished with this, y'all. Hold on. There was something specific I'm looking for, but I don't see it. Okay, page 14. Page 14. The effort of the Jehovah's Witnesses. The Jehovah's Witness organization of today is the last resort, endeavoring to lift the shame of the order of Christ through hypocrisy. Remember, the founder of the head leader of the Jehovah's Witnesses is of the same people referred to as quote-unquote white. Therefore, we might assume that the organization of the Jehovah's Witnesses is definitely a failure. And he's so right. Look at the status of their organization today. The exposure of the pedophilia and the hypocrisy, investing in, you can just turn on YouTube and you can see people who allege and show evidence, according to them, that the Jehovah's Witnesses invest in war. They buy stocks that have to do with producing things that are used in war. Doing things that they tell you that you're not supposed to do, right? But anyway, let's go down. Second paragraph at the bottom. While the quote-unquote white men seduce the helpless Moorish or Asiatic women at home, y'all hear that? The white men seduced the helpless Moorish or Asiatic women at home. How did they become helpless, y'all? What happened in our society, in our communities, where you had helpless Moorish women? Okay? So they seduced them at home and abroad so as to perpetuate the quote-unquote lily white nation of Rome during the past 93 years. So they seduced them into doing what? Supporting them, just like they do today. Just like they do today. Y'all ever notice that? That the hybrid men, they use the quote-unquote black woman to destroy or participate in the genocide of her own people, especially the quote-unquote black man. This ain't nothing new. The picture of the quote-unquote white sun image and its quote-unquote mother equal the power of 10,000 words in the name of the evil tradition of white superiority when placed before the blonde children ranging between 6 and 9 years of age, gave them a false conception of white supremacy before they had even been taught to read, which grows up in them. And then he goes on about the daughters of the revolution. So I'm going to go back to wait, I want to read this. Page 15. Under the selfish act of the amalgamated Muslims, brought shame upon the order of Islam. Had not the selfish Muslims of the order of Islam established the superstitious religious system? See, if they had not established that religious system, contrary to universal economic and social science. So in other words, this religious system is out of harmony with nature. So if they would not have created it, he continues. Well, let me just pick it up. Had not the selfish Muslims of the order of Islam established the superstitious religious system contrary to the universal economic and social science as shown in the 12 signs of the Zodiac and mathematics, there would have been no superstitious religious order of quote-unquote Christ and Mary. In other words, we did it to ourselves. Therefore, the definite fact is that both, namely the Muslims and the Christians, or Asiatics and Europeans, of the entire earth are equally guilty for violation of the law of nature, as shown in the 12 signs of the ever-present Zodiac, which has caused them to undergo the grim law of retribution. But we can take it back further than that. Yaqub and his 12 staff sciences they're ultimately responsible, right? Civilization is founded upon practical wisdom and the morals of women. I agree with that. I mean, that's 100%. Right? Anyway, oh, hold on. So let's go to page 16. Let's end it with some encouragement. The kinky-haired women of the United States and abroad are the ones who will restore civilization and peace to the world during the next 7 years. Is this a failed prophecy, y'all? What does he mean by 7 years? Geometry and the 12 signs of the Zodiac constitute the prophetic law. Y'all see that? Geometry and the 12 signs of the Zodiac constitute the prophetic law. Prophecy. Which is never told a lie. So in other words, you need to understand how to read the stars. That's what prophecy is. The economic suffering of the blonde women of Rome, England, France, Germany, and Greece, and the mystical Palestine would fulfill the blonde women of the United States, Canada, and Australia during the next 7 years. So is this a failed prophecy? What is he talking about? Or did it happen? Nature has a just law. It is the grim law, or even is this an edit to his work? Does this need to be corrected? I don't know. Nature has a just law. It is the grim law of retribution. Wishful thinking, lip service, hypocritical prayer, wealth, atomic bombs, universal military training, and the wooden or stone image of quote-unquote white God definitely cannot offset the grim law of retribution during the next 7 years. Economic chaos will make the blind people of the U.S.A. hate the name such as quote-unquote white people. After the cycle of retribution had fulfilled, the Asiatics of the United States, the kinky-haired women, began to give birth to children who have become champions of the world in every important department of human society. Remember, champions of the world do not have to beg for social recognition, all right? So these champions would be born and have been born, okay? The daughters of the revolution will end begging the Asiatics of the United States for social recognition. The law of retribution cannot be altered. We reap that which has been sown in the past. You shall, whatever you reap, whatever you sow, that you shall also reap, right? Anyway, let's go back to the devil's pulpit. I went on and on and on. I forgot why I even went into the clock of destiny. But let's see if I can figure out. I remember. So page 244. Okay, here it is. No, 245. Last paragraph of 244. Yeah, overall by mystery. Well, let me just start from the top to keep it, make it understandable. But in earlier days, through the days of an infinitely remote antiquity, this would be when our ancestors lived our life according to the circumpolar zodiac. Such an institution as that of Freemasonry, as it had its necessity, had its sanctity, its right, its justice, its utility in that need. So it was a good thing, and it was needed. It was honorable. Which those of the human race, the Han Uman, who first emerged from the state of barbarous ignorance into reason. Okay, so that's why I went into the clock of destiny, talking about the hybrids, okay? Who first emerged from the state of barbarous ignorance into reason, intelligence, and science, had to protect themselves from the incursions of the monkeys, baboons, and wild men of the woods. So y'all make sure y'all search YouTube for Han Uman South America or Monkey Gods South America. You can also watch Planet of the Apes. You know, that's a spin-off of that, or I guess a story. They're talking about the Yakubian experiments. All of the Planet of the Apes. Was it Dr. Monroe's Island or something like that? Those two movies. Frankenstein. Okay. So it continues, with whom the conflict was continually the struggle of wit against brute force. Okay, so these were creatures, the hybrid, you know, their initial iterations, they were creatures who had some intelligence, but they didn't have the full strength of an animal, right? So, and they were ignorant as to the workings of nature. This is what the author is talking about. And who were only kept aloof by stratagem, overawed by mystery, and ruled by terror. Well, our ancestors did that. C.M. Bay called them the amalgamated Moors, who did that to them, right? And then it backfired, because that system of false religious doctrines that they created for the hybrid began to spill over into our society. This is where you get the Muslim or Muslim religion from, according to the author. And it destroyed our people. Okay, so this is Jeremiah 8:8, right? These would be the priests who wrote lies in the book of the law. And trials of strength, of understanding, of those whose curiosity urged them to wish to penetrate into the arcana of Masonry, were absolutely necessary to protect the cradle of infant science from the incursion of the wolves of the wilderness and the same law of nature, by which man feels that more is due to man from man than from man to inferior animals, both justified and authorized that Escheat du corpse, which attached the mason to his brother mason, as man more properly to his brother man, his brother in the possession of a rational nature and in that of sympathy, of desire to enlarge his faculties, in other words, to learn, and to activate, fully activate his mind, and to cultivate his reason, which he hath not. But how can you do that if you've been put, I'm talking about the hybrid, how can the hybrid do that if the hybrid had been forced into a state of ignorance about science and about the zodiac and all aspects of nature, and he was forbidden to learn how to read? In other words, let me restate that. the hybrid did not have the capacity, according to the author, C.M. Bay, to read something and understand its literal meaning. Just like most of y'all watching this video. You don't have the capacity to read something and understand its literal meaning. Just open up your Bible, Old or New Testament, and you'll see that for a fact yourself. You're going to look at it from the point of view of your beliefs and symbolism. That's completely different than being able to look at something and understand what it literally means. Why? Because it means you need to know about connotative and denotative linguistics. You need to know about grammar and grammar rules, sentence structure, word structure, and all the tricks that are used to create words and hide meaning, and to create meaning from sentences and hide the meaning. You need to know philology. You need to know history, secular and mythological history. They know you don't know that. So you don't have the capacity. And I'm not saying it as a put down, I'm talking about the facts. The same as a hybrid did not have the capacity to look at a document and understand what it literally means. They could understand the doctrine because they were taught the doctrine. And when they see the words, they see doctrine, okay? And they see connotative meaning of words, but they don't feel comfortable with grammar. They don't know how words are constructed properly and secretly. Like, when you study this book, one of the things you'll learn is that one of the common tricks they use is they'll take a radical. They'll take a radical from 3 different languages. One from Egypt, let's say one from India, and then one from, let's say, Rome. Slap them together, throw some vowels in there, and all of a sudden you got a whole new word, like Solomon. Sol-om-an. 3 words to make up Solomon, but you think that's one word, but you don't know what it means. It all means the sun, the S-U-N, sun, okay? Anyway, let's continue. So these Masons, they stick together like brothers, right? So they see themselves as equal men. Everybody outside of Masonry, you're at the level of an animal. You're uninitiated. Okay? You're an animal. You're Goyim. So they flip the script on us. So continue on page 245. The celebrated Cavalier Ramsay has labored to prove that Freemasonry arose during the Crusades. See, y'all? Arose during the Crusades. That's not long ago, y'all. And was only a secondary order of chivalry. Now, the Crusades. This is when the Christians. Well, let me get a definition for you. Hold on. Y'all know who does a good presentation on the cruise? Hold on. Okay, Crusades. The Crusades were a series of religious wars initiated, supported, and sometimes directed by the Christian Latin Church in the medieval period. And y'all, who were they fighting? Let's continue. So the best known of these military expeditions are those of the Holy Land in the period between 1095 and 1291 that had the objective, listen y'all, of conquering Jerusalem and its surrounding area from Muslim rule. After the region had been conquered, by the Rashidun Caliphate. The beginning of the first Christian crusade, which resulted in the conquest of Jerusalem in 1099, dozens of military campaigns were organized, providing a focal point of European of hybrid history. For centuries, okay, it says here, crusading declined rapidly in the 15th century. So what is he talking about? So this is the order of the cross and the order of Islam. This is the result of our ancestors, with these amalgamated Moors who created these religions, okay, and destroyed everything, because now they're at war. Y'all see it? This is what C.M. Bay was talking about. He continues, the learned Darrell-El, B-A-R-R-U-E-L, so it's actually Baru-El, supposes it to be a continuation of the Society of Knights Templars. There you go, the secret society. While Clinch and others deduce Freemasons' origin from the institution of Pythagoras. You know there was no Pythagoras, right? Unless they gave someone else, they renamed him Pythagoras. A Moor changed his name to Pythagoras, right? Or gave him a name called Pythagoras. In the course of these lectures, however, with the aid of further discoveries, brighter lights, and juster principles of critical research than have heretofore been brought to bear on this curious subject, I, says the author, I pledge myself to let the cat out of the bag, to leave no part of the mysterious secret unexposed, but to flash restless conviction on the minds of Masons themselves that the Masons are absolved from their oath of secrecy. Y'all hear that? But to flash restless conviction on the minds of Masons themselves that they are absolved from their oath of secrecy, and that they know nothing that we do not know as well as they. And that they have nothing left either to conceal or betray. Y'all hear that? In other words, there have been people who told all the secrets. Y'all see now why YouTube shadow bans my YouTube channel? Why? If I go into YouTube Studio, y'all know. If I go into YouTube Studio to live stream, they mess with the microphone. It becomes staticky. Yeah, they actually mess with the microphone. That's why I'm using Prism. So they don't want this information out at all. They try to hide this information. You see men like the Reverend Robert Taylor, Carl Anderson, you know, other authors who wrote these books. Now these books, nobody knows anything about them because they told everything. They told. Okay, they have no defense. The books are out. Egypt, the Light of the World by Gerald Massey. It's all out. But most people don't know about these books. Okay, but I'm going to keep on teaching in an effort to do my part to help my people free themselves, to save themselves. I shall prove Freemasonry to be the combined result of Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian superstitions, and absolutely identical with the celebrated Eleusinian mysteries of Greece. Y'all hear that? The Dionysian mysteries, or orgies of Bacchus, and the Christian mysteries of the sacrament of the body and blood of Christ, which are absolutely not more different in any respect from each other than the customs and forms of any lodge of Freemasonry in England may be from those of a lodge in any of the nations of the continent, where though the language, the words, the persons, and the paraphernalia may be varied, the spirit and the purport of the mysteries is precisely the same. So according to the author, Freemasonry is a mixture, a composite of Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian superstitions. And it is identical, he says absolutely identical with the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece. Now here's the problem. Was there really a Greece? Egypt is much more ancient than Greece. There's not even a comparison. Egypt would be the ocean, and Greece would be a molecule of water. No comparison. So the Eleusinian mysteries, the Dionysian mysteries, and the orgies of Bacchus, and the Christian mysteries of the sacrament of the body and the blood of Christ. So it's through these mystery schools that produce those extra 30 degrees of Freemasonry. Y'all see that? On the evidence hereafter to be adduced, no one shall be able to doubt that the Eleusinian and Dionysian mysteries, modeled as they were upon the mysteries of Isis. Now that makes sense. And Osiris of Egypt. In other words, the Eleusinian and Dionysian mysteries are plagiarized versions of the mysteries of Isis. Of course, Isis is Virgo, and Osiris of Egypt, and have passed over into the mysteries of the craft of Freemasonry, and that they were formed at first for scientific purposes. Y'all see that? Go way back. When our ancestors lived their lives according to the circumpolar zodiacal projection. Things went bad when those priests of Ra shifted. In other words, they got rid of the circumpolar zodiac, hid it, and started pushing the solar zodiacal projection with the worship of the sun, the worship of Ra. And then it became about religion. They pushed religion. 16 solar deities, all using that same template. Okay, y'all? Though subsequently, let me restate that. In the solar zodiacal projection, those subsequently made the vehicle of the doctrines of the Egyptian mythology. Y'all got that? So the solar zodiacal projection was used to create all this religious mystery stuff. This is why you see Hiram Abiff, who is the morgue, lying down dead in a shallow grave, lying down asleep in a shallow grave with his head in Aries. Aries is the Lamb of God. The Lamb of God is Jesus Christ. His head is in Aries. In other words, y'all saw that Jesus picture? I showed this yesterday in the class, but I'm going to do it again. Okay, this is the solar zodiacal projection. Hiram Abiff, or the Moor, sleep, dead, civilly dead, with his head in Aries. Aries is the Lamb of God, Jesus Christ. Okay? The Moor is being punished. His feet are in the scales of justice. Okay? And look at where I forgot to mention this yesterday. Look at where JC's feet are. His feet are in the water. Maritime Admiralty Law. The Holy See. Okay, the source of the Pope's authority. Roman law and customs. Okay, y'all? Anyway, let's stop right there. So we're going to pick it back up at the bottom of page 245. So thanks, y'all, for spending time with me. Islam to all the Moors. Assalamu alaikum. And shalom.